Hey, in this video I'm going to go through 2 methods of fixing leaky bonded windows. I fitted mine myself and 3 out of 4 of them were leaking, so I really needed to find out some solutions to see how to fix it. So the 2 I'm going to go through is 1, removing the window in its entirety and sticking it back on and how easy that is. And then the second is the best way to apply some silicone down the top so it fixes the leak but in a way that you can't actually see the silicone. This window that I've bonded onto the back has been leaking. I didn't put enough care in when I first put it in, and instantly we had water running down from the inside. It was coming down here, coming down the other side, and then it was falling down the back of the window and getting caught by the bottom sealant and actually pulling up. So we're going to be removing this and re-sticking it on. So I've seen a lot of people trying to fix it with either running sealant around here, which is a terrible idea because the water will still come in, pool, but you just won't see it on the inside of the glass. I think the best thing to do is to just take the window off and re-stick it on. So what we've got today to do that is just some cheese wire. So we're going to run it around the edge of the window and try and cut through the sealant and just take the window off. From there we'll scrape the sealant off with some razors and then just re-stick it on. So let's try that. I've got the cheese wire. It's just sort of serrated wire that we'll run around the edge and just try sort of pulling back and forth, and hopefully we can cut through the sealant. Here you can see that I'm putting it around all the corners of the window. This actually made it quite difficult because I needed to cut through the entire right side against a flat face. I'd recommend trying to cut through one corner at a time. To do this, I'd recommend putting masking tape down the side of the metal and possibly on the glass as well, which would stop the wire running against the metal and scratching it. I also ended up wrapping the wire around some tools. You can buy kits that include handles, and I'd recommend trying to find one of these as it made it much more difficult not having them. But wrapping it around the tools did work quite well. Here I ended up standing further away from the window. This allowed me to get much more balance and leverage while pulling away from the top side of the window. In total, the whole process took about 20 minutes. I think if you follow some of the recommendations that I've made, you could probably cut that down to 5 or 10. It was very difficult pulling the wire through the flat surface on the right. Like I say, if you go through the corners, I think you could do it much quicker. Once I got through that surface, it cut through the sealant with very little resistance. It didn't take any time at all. One thing that slowed me down as well is it got caught on the rubber seal that goes around the metal. The wire went into it and I started pulling against the seal, which I couldn't see until we went around and had a look at the other side. You're best just taking the seal off altogether before starting. Bought a set of alcohol wipes, but they're only this big. Right, so now we're scraping the residue off the inside of here. So I'm just using a normal scraper to get big pieces off, and then I will use a razor blade to get the rest off. I start using an alcohol wipe to get rid of the residue. This had a reasonable effect, but what was really effective was when we started using methylated spirits or white spirits. That really seemed to just strip the rest of the residue off and made it very soft to get rid of. So I used a normal scraper that wasn't sharp to get the large chunks off, and then I switched across to a razor blade, which really helped cut the thinner slices off. This was really effective, and when combined with the white spirits, the residue just came off really easily. There was still a tiny amount of residue left, but this wouldn't cause an issue when bonding to the new sealant. Once we'd done the glass, we just did the same to the metal as well. My dad had done most of the work while I was filming the window, so not as much to see here. We had to be careful with the razor blade on the metal, as it was much easier to scratch the paint off, whereas on the glass it was quite easy not to cause any damage. Here, because I hadn't done originally, I made sure I just went around and painted the edge of the metal to make sure that it would stop rust and corrosion. And that's it, that's how we took the window off. Then we just followed the normal steps to reapply the window, but this time making sure to be much more careful that there were no gaps in the sealant and to apply really good pressure when we pushed the window back on. This solved the problem and the window is now leak-free. Now I'll go on to the second method, which is how we're going to apply the silicone down the top of the window. So to fix this leak, we know exactly where it is, so what I'm going to do is I've attached a bendy straw to the end of the silicone gun. I'm going to fit that down the top and I'm just going to put loads in and hopefully that will cover up the hole, because it's much easier than taking the window off. The first time I tried this, I put the sealant to the left of where the leak was and I tried running it all the way along. As the bendy straw was bendy, this made it quite difficult. The second time I attempted it on the other side of the van, I put the nozzle where I knew the leak was and kept squeezing. This expanded the silicone out from the central point, meaning that it covered the leak and the surrounding area, meaning it was very watertight. A good tip would be to use masking tape along the metal of the van. This way, if you do get any residue on the top, like I did here, you can just pull it off and get rid of the silicone without leaving any traces. So thanks for watching that. I'm happy to announce that all my windows are now leak-free, which is good. In the next video, I'm going to be building a pop-up roof completely from scratch, so subscribe if you want to see that.